Chapter 21 of Married Thrice to Salted Fish. From now on, Lu Wancheng paid a lot of attention to the developments in the Qindai Pavilion and asked for Qindai Pavilion every day. Huan Tong came in from the outside, and before he could even speak, Lu Wancheng pinched his throat and said, "Young master, Shao Jun, there's finally been an incident in Qingdai Pavilion. Lynching you. ... dot dot dot." Huan Tong looked completely at a loss. "What?" Lu Wancheng smiled and said, "I'm guessing that someday you're going to say that, so I was imitating the way you talk." Lin Qingyu pulled the rug from under him right on the spot. "First of all, Huan Tong wouldn't call me Shao Jun. If you're going to imitate him, then at least try to imitate him well. Secondly, for livening up, medicine to harm someone's core isn't something that can be done in a day." Lin Qingyu couldn't help being suspicious. "Why are you even more anxious than I am?" "Well, isn't that because I'm bored doing nothing but resting? I'm always coughing and I can't sleep." Lu Wancheng hadn't been sleeping well lately. He even had spots of bluish purple under his eyes. Lin Qingyu thought for a while and asked Huan Tong, "And what have you come here for?" Oh, watching the two banter, Huan Tong almost forgot his purpose for coming. "Manager Zheng is here," Lin Qingyu said. "Let him in." Zhang Shiquan had come this time to tell them of something strange. Among the various businesses of the Hao Mansion, the restaurants and the shops in the city, along with the villages in the countryside, accounted for half of them. The villages in the countryside depended on the weather for their crops. A drought could spell total crop failure for more than half a year. At the beginning of this year, Shuchao had been suffering from a drought. Strangely, the income of several villages in Shuchao did not decrease but increased instead. No problem could be seen on the books, and the grain has indeed been sent to the Hao Mansion's warehouse. It really was quite puzzling. Seeing Zhang Shiquan so worried, Huan Tong asked, "We received more than the harvest instead of the less. Isn't this a fortunate event?" Zhang Shiquan said, "Seeing as we do not know where this wealth has come from, if it turns out to be ill-gotten, the entire Hao Mansion may be implicated." Lin Qingyu cast a sidelong glance at Lu Wancheng, who was lying atop the lohan. The noble son, who was resting on the couch, was still ever as relaxed and content despite his illness. Eyes half-lidded, he remained aloof to matters that didn't personally affect him. Zhang Shiquan asked, "Shao Jun, may I send someone to investigate this matter?" Lin Qingyu's heart was moved, but when his thoughts reached his lips, he changed his words. "No need. In any case, this isn't a deficit in income. I simply don't feel like bothering about it." Lu Wancheng's eyes opened wide, and Lin Qingyu fancied he could even see his ears perk up. He couldn't help finding it all amusing. See, Lin Qingyu threw a bait, knowing, Lu Wancheng always thought, yeah, Lin Qingyu would investigate it further. But as soon as he said, "No, I don't really care," Lu Wancheng is like, "What happened to my baby? What happened to my wife?" Zhang Shiquan said hesitantly, "Shao Jun, I think it won't do to handle this matter carelessly. It would be better to investigate it." "We will talk about it some other time." Lin Qingyu stood up and said, "I'm a little tired. I'm going back to the room to rest. Do as you please." As soon as Lin Qingyu left, a worrywart steward and a salted fish looked at each other. It was common knowledge that young Master Hao has always been indifferent to everything, holding himself above all worldly matters. He never asked about the household affairs, no matter how big or small. They needed only to listen to Shao Jun's orders. Now that Shao Jun said not to investigate, although he did not approve of such practices, he could only follow orders. Deng Shiquan sighed. Young Master Hao, I will withdraw first. Wait, Lu Wancheng said solemnly. Zhu Zhao needs to be investigated, and you must do it yourself. I suspect. Lu Wancheng paused. It's not too late. It's not too late yet. You must leave as soon as possible. Ever since Zhang Shiquan entered the Hao mansion, young Master Hao has only given him one order: to share the Shaojun's worries for him, nothing else. Young Master Hao, suddenly taking an interest in this matter, he blurted out in surprise. But Shaojun said, Shaojun is tired and mistakes in judgment are inevitable, Lu Wancheng said, sounding quite unwilling. I will reluctantly have to be the one to worry about his inheritance for him. Jiang Shiquan didn't dare delay and set off for Zhu the very next day. After Lin Qingyu learned about it, he observed Lu Wancheng even more carefully. What should be done, what should not be done, what can be done, and what cannot be done. Lu Wancheng could tell more clearly than anyone else, but he just didn't bother to move. He just wanted to lie flat. It wasn't until no one would help him do it that he forces himself to do it. Lu Wancheng once said that he was tired of studying, but was still able to take the first place. At that time, he merely took it as Lu Wancheng talking rubbish. Now, he actually believed it. It was a scorching summer, and the intense heat was unbearable. Lin Qingyu had been inside the bathroom for a long time. His flimsy clothes had long been soaked in sweat. The feeling of it sticking to his skin was extremely uncomfortable. He stretched out his hand to test the water temperature and feeling it acceptable, asking Huan Tong to push Lu Wancheng in. For all Lu Wancheng's laziness, he paid great attention to his personal cleanliness. When he was in good health, he would take a bath every day in summer. Lin Qingyu was worried he would catch a cold, so he asked him to wash only every other day. Lu Wancheng was still quite unwilling and wanted to kick up a fuss. Fortunately, the Hao mansion was a rich household and the servants were very attentive. When Lin Qingyu got vexed by his fuss, he simply left him to the servants. Lin Qingyu sprinkled medicinal powder into the bathtub. Hearing movements from the direction of the doorway, without turning his head to look back, he said, It's ready. Lu Wancheng was a little surprised. Why are you? It's been a long time, but your cough shows no sign of improving. It's getting in the way of people's sleep. A medicated bath before going to bed may help you get better. Lin Qingyu turned around. He tugged the hair sticking to his cheeks from sweat behind his ears. The candles were lit in the bathroom and mist suffused the air. Lin Qingyu's cheeks had turned rosy from the steam, and even his lips seemed to be covered in a sheen of lustrous moisture. Lu Wancheng let out an "oh" and silently looked away. Lin Qingyu said, Huan Tong, help young Master Hao undress. Huan Tong said, full of vigor, Yes, young master. Lu Wancheng allowed Huan Tong to strip off his clothes for him. He asked, Qingyu, are you going to stay and watch me take a bath? No, the water temperature of the medicated bath is very important. 1 point higher or 1 point lower will affect its efficacy, so I wanted to stay to monitor it. Lu Wancheng's eyes blinked. Then, are you going to watch me take a bath? Lin Qingyu's tone grew heavier. I said, I'm not. Lu Wancheng smiled. Ah, what should I do if I'm a little shy? Lin Qingyu used only 10 words, to make Lu Wancheng shed his shamelessness. Do we not share a profound friendship, my good brother? It was as though Lu Wancheng woke up from a dream. Good brother? Lu Wancheng was stripped until only his underpants were left on. The two of them helped him into the tub, all the while as he grumbled. This body is as weak as a chicken. It's got no abs. It's so ugly. He stayed at home all year round. Lu Wancheng's complexion was fairer than some women, and his limbs were slender. It was completely far from being ugly. Lu Wancheng shunned it as ugly probably because he preferred a strong and sturdy body. The bathtub wasn't very big, and Lu Wancheng only submerged the lower half of his chest into the medicated bath. Lin Qingyu and Huan Tong scooped the water onto his shoulders so that the decoction would fully soak into his whole body. The bathroom was filled with medicinal fragrance mixed with hot water vapor. It made one's breathing run a little bit faster. Lin Qingyu suddenly said, "Young Master Hao." Lu Wancheng was pouring the decoction over himself. Hmm? Lin Qingyu stretched out his arm and raised Lu Wancheng's chin, carefully looking at him under the light of the lamp. Lu Wancheng's heartbeat gradually became unstable. Voice low, he said, "What are you looking at me for?" Lin Qingyu let go and his lips curved into a smile. "Finally, I understand you." When Lu Wancheng saw Lin Qingyu smile, he himself couldn't help from smiling back. "Why do you say that? You appear tired and lazy on the surface, but underneath you are actually eager to be best in everything. Like me, you don't like the feeling of being subjugated. So, even if you hate studying, in order to get first place, you still forced yourself to work hard, even if your mom hands over heavy responsibilities upon you to the point that you can't even get your fill of sleep, you still learn everything well. Even if I don't want to wade through the muddy waters of the Nananhao mansion, in the end, you still take action." He was lazy and didn't like losing. He willingly drifts along but could still win in spite of that. Lu Wancheng was really a strange person. The smile in Lu Wancheng's eyes deepened. "You're right, but also not quite. In the past, when I was studying, some people competed with me. If I didn't wish to lose, I could only study. But now, in the Nananhao mansion, I'm someone who's about to die. What is there for me to strive for?" After that, Lu Wancheng himself seemed dazed. "That's right. What on earth am I striving for?" Lin Qingyu said light. "That's something you should ask yourself." Lu Wancheng thought for a while. He raised his eyes to look at Lin Qingyu. Lin Qingyu's brows were enveloped in mist. They looked as though they were tinged with affectionate warmth. "Of course, it's because young Master Hao needed only move his lips in the mansion and someone else would help him do things. It really saves on effort." Suddenly hearing Huan Tong's voice, Lu Wancheng was so shocked that he dove into the water, leaving only his head exposed. "Why are you here?" Huan Tong scratched his head. "I have always been here." Lu Wancheng, dot dot dot. That's kind of funny. They were having like a moment, and oh gosh, Huan Tong was just being like the invisible third wheel till Lu Wancheng realized. But the way they kind of like described Lin Qingyu in the bath, like with the sheen on his lips and everything, I don't know if Lu Wancheng will think about his image, that night. After the soak in the medicinal bath, Lu Wancheng slept peacefully that night. When he woke up the next day, his vigor improved a lot and his cough wasn't as severe as before. Lu Wancheng couldn't help but guess, is this the legendary last radiance of the setting sun? Lin Qingyu nodded. Yes, we can start helping you prepare for the funeral. Lu Wancheng smiled and said, then I have to think about which clothes to wear when I die. In the past, Lu Wancheng also used to frequently make jokes about his death. Lin Qingyu had heard it a lot, so naturally he shouldn't take it seriously. But now, Lin Qingyu looked at the lush trees outside the trees and slowly clenched his fists. After lunch, Lu Wancheng went to take a nap as usual, but he was disturbed by the sound of a bamboo flute, making him unable to sleep soundly. Lin Qingyu had Hualu go see what was going on. It turned out that it was the entertainers Lu Shaosong provided for in the courtyard playing some music. Lu Shaosong's Xindai Pavilion and the Blue Wind Pavilion were far apart. Usually, the sounds of Lu Shaosong's life of dissipation wouldn't reach them in their courtyard. But for whatever reason, today Lu Shaosong had set up a pipa in the pavilion closest to the Blue Wind Pavilion. Aside from the sound of pipa, from time to time, the sound of bird song as well as chatter and laughter would drift into their pavilion. Lin Qingyu said, making no attempt to conceal his words. Why is he not dead yet? Lu Wancheng said, your medicine might not be that effective. How could that be possible? Lin Qingyu said coldly. I think he too knows that his body is weak, so he doesn't dare to drink and have fun as much as he usually does. I will go and see. Lu Wancheng sighed and stood up with difficulty. Then I will go too. Lin Qingyu pushed Lu Wancheng to the pavilion. From a distance, they could already see that there were many people inside. All these young Gongzi were Lu Shaosong's poetry friends. Lu Shaosong prided himself on being romantic and refined. He was romantic and refined, who just visits brothels for half a month and who has a kidney disease? Gosh, they need to change the definition of what he is. He often had gatherings with his poet friends. They claimed to be composing poetry while enjoying wine. Only they knew whether they did things other than that. Yeah, this is why I hate those gatherings of guys who act yeah, we are just enjoying wine and poetry, but we will also have few girls around here. Ugh, disgusting. Lu Song was under confinement. He wasn't allowed out of the house, so his poet friends came to his door instead. But looking at them sitting around the pavilion, each of them had a nice looking woman in their arms. There were also a few entertainers under the pavilion strumming pipas. Lu Song held a brush in his hand, spewing it in ink. All his friends around him were applauding. A female singer was leaning against him, fanning herself with a silk gauze fan, a smile on her face. The first to see Lin Qingyu and Lu Wancheng was the pipa playing girls. They were all occupants of the Hao mansion, and even though they had never seen Lin Qingyu, they had long heard from others that this Shao Jun was not someone to be trifled with. Of the two people that the Shao Jun personally dealt with last time, one was demoted to the lowest rank of servants, made to do dirty and tiring errands every day, and the other went crazy and was sent out of the Hao mansion. The Momo had even been the madam's trusted aide. When the girl playing the pipa saw Lin Qingyu, she hurriedly stopped. The music came to a sudden halt, causing the rest of the people to turn around and look. Liu Song's expression changed, and he threw a brush in his hand onto the painting, the ink slowly smearing onto the paper. Compared to him, the eyes of his poet friend as they looked at the two people were intrigued. Everyone who knew Lu Song knew that Lu Song had a sick elder brother who was not long of this world. In all likelihood, he must be the one in the wheelchair. The only thing that could be said was that he was worthy of being the eldest son of a noble house. Even seated in a wheelchair, the noble air around young Master Hao was hard to conceal. And the one behind him, they were all long-time patrons of the brothels. There was no kind of beauty that they haven't seen before. But when they first saw this person, they were they were still a little surprised, and they all exchanged appreciative looks. Blech. Unexpectedly, despite being listless and sickly, young Master Hao was quite fortunate in love. It was a pity that no matter how beautiful the beauty, he wouldn't be able to enjoy it. This must be young Master Hao, said a young man in a royal blue brocade robe. I am called Zheng Tiangle. Greetings to young Master Hao. Lu Wancheng prodded his cheek on his hand and said with much interest, why did you all stop? Continue with the dancing and music. Everyone looked at each other helplessly. Zheng Tiangle was the type who knew how to live on others' favor. He said with a smile, perhaps our merrymaking here has disturbed young Master Hao? Lin Qingyu said coldly, what do you think? Now that he had spoken, the others could finally squarely cast their eyes on him. A man next to Lu Song seemed to have drank a little too much and was unable to even stand steady. He stared fixedly at Lin Qingyu and said, Shang, is this beautiful lady your elder brother's concubine? Lin Qingyu's pupils shrank slightly. His hands around the wheelchair's handles suddenly tightened. Lu Song laughed and said, who can compare to Huang Xiang when it comes to having a discerning eye? Come. Tell me, what do you think? Why do you think he's a concubine, not a proper wife? Oh my gosh, these guys have a freaking death wish. The drunk man spouted nonsense. If you marry, you must marry the perfect wife with integrity and talent. A proper wife would be busy assisting her husband and taking care of the children, managing the household. How could she possibly grow such a bewitching appearance? Oh my gosh, what is this fucking prejudice against good-looking people, huh? Just because he's good-looking, you ugly ass faces can't blabber. Oh gosh, calm down, me. Zheng Tiangle whispered, Huang Xiang, stop talking. Why shouldn't he speak? What he said was good. Lu Song picked up the wine cup. I, your younger brother, offers a toast to you for your wise words. Oh my gosh, this guy has a freaking death wish. He's going to die so freaking soon. Just when Lin Qingyu was about to have a fit of anger, he suddenly felt someone patting the back of his hand. He heard Lu Wancheng saying with a smile, my wife is dignified and refined and of elegant temperament. He clearly has all the markings of a legal wife. Does this brother have eye problems? Zheng Tiangle cupped his hand in the other and saluted. He said, Huang Xiang has offended Shaozhen. Huang Xiang has had too much to drink and made those remarks under the influence of alcohol. I hope that Shaozhen will not take it to heart. That won't do, drunk or not, he has said those things. But since you have all come here, then you're all guests, and I must give you some face. Lu Wancheng tapped the armrest with the tip of his fingers. How about we do it this way? This Huang Xiang will be penalized with 10 cups of drink. If he accepts, then I shall forget all about this matter. How about it? 10 cups? Zheng Tinglai said. Huang Xiang is already this drunk. How can he possibly still drink 10 more cups? Lin Qingyu said coldly, since you feel so sorry for him, are you here to drink for him? That, yeah, this guy was not able to stop spewing nonsense from his mouth, so if he can't stop his freaking mouth to close, why can't he just drink himself to die, huh? When Lu Xiaosong bought out to treat his friends to today were all aged vintage wines. 3 cups and it would get to your head, 5 cups and you'd be drunk, and 10 cups you would die from intoxication. It would take 2 or 3 days to recover. Isn't it just drinking? I will drink for him, Lu Xiaosong volunteered. Come on, serve me the wine. Wow, these guys really do have a big ego and a huge death wish, huh? Zheng Qiangli stopped him. Xiaosong, you can't. The doctor said your body. It's just drinking. Who is there for me, Lu Xiaosong, to be afraid of? Zheng Qiangli couldn't stop him, and he watched on helplessly as Lu Xiaosong drank one cup after another. When he finished the last cup, he was surprisingly still sober. After drinking the last cup, Lu Xiaosong upended the cup on the table, wiped off the liquid from the corner of his mouth, and looked at Lu Wancheng as though trying to provoke him. So, are you satisfied now? Lu Wancheng clapped his hands and laughed. Third brother is a good drinker. Lu Xiaosong coldly snorted. I have finished your penalty. If there is nothing else, then forgive me for not seeing you off. Lu Wancheng smiled lightly. Wife, let's go back. Lin Qingyu glanced at Lu Xiaosong. His eyes seemed to be looking at a dead man. That night, a woman's scream broke the usual tranquility of the Hao mansion. The noise of a commotion gradually rose. The sound of chaotic footsteps mixed with hushed whispers gradually spread from the Qingdai pavilion to the Blue Wind pavilion. Not long after, Huan Tong, charging in a hurry, finally said those words. Young Master Hao, there is finally been an incident in Qingdai pavilion. Standing by the window, Lin Qingyu turned to Lu Wancheng and smiled. Wancheng, would you like to go out and take a look? Let's go. After saying so, Lu Wancheng was a bit dazed, feeling that there was something not quite right. It took quite before he realized what was wrong, and he let out an involuntary chuckle. It turned out that if you wanted the beautiful villain to change the way he addressed you, you only needed to let him successfully do evil. If he was happy, he might call anything. Oh, see, he finally called him Wancheng, not Young Master Hao. See, he was so freaking happy that he even called him Wancheng. And Wancheng figured it out. Let my wife do the evil, then she will be happy and she'll call me anything. So I support my wife in her endeavors, or in his endeavors. Sorry. But yeah, that's so funny. It was very good, though a bit punishing to the kidneys, but in any case, it wasn't his kidneys being punished. Lu Wancheng looked down at where his heart would be and suddenly had an idea. If Lin Qingyu called him by his own name, how would he possibly feel? Oh, we are also curious about Lu Wancheng's original name. Oh, that's so sweet. They're falling for each other and they don't even know it. Oh, I'm so sad.